Hi everyone, welcome back to Home Ericanomics. I'm your instructor Erica, and today for class, I figured we needed to do something different. A good weeknight recipe that is a little bit different than what we're typically used to eating, but still fun, great for the kids, and also very quick and easy to make. So what is it? We're making chicken bacon ranch pasta. So as always, put on your aprons and let's get started. Now when it comes to ingredients, you're going to need the following: boneless, skinless chicken breast, or thighs, pasta noodles, bacon, ranch seasoning, heavy cream, garlic, butter, salt and pepper, your seasonings of choice, mozzarella cheese, cheddar cheese, Parmesan cheese, and some olive oil. To begin, we're going to cook our bacon, and I like to cook my bacon in the Ninja Foodi Grill. One of the great things about it is that it's a way to prepare bacon and other things without all of that grease popping at you. And so it's quick and easy. So we're just going to throw our bacon in like so. Spread it around, close this up, and then turn it on. We're going to hit air fry, take it down to 360, and hit start. Now we're not going to go the full amount, which I do believe is about 20 minutes or so. We're going to cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes. And just like that, we have perfectly cooked bacon. So now that the bacon is all cooked up, I'm going to go ahead and chop it into smaller pieces. And then you'll also need to do the same for your garlic, like so. You'll need to go ahead and boil your water for your pasta and make sure you heavily salt it because this is going to help give flavor to your noodles. Then, if you're anything like me, you have a ton of different types of pasta around the house from different recipes and things you cooked. So today I'm going to go ahead and use some rigatoni. I'm just going to pour that in there. And one great way to ensure that you cook your pasta for the appropriate amount of time, which is usually around 7 minutes, go ahead and set a timer because it's very easy to overcook pasta and nobody wants a chewy, gummy pasta. So now we need to prepare our chicken. And when it comes to chicken, people have different preferences of how they do it. Do it however you like it, but just make sure you towel dry it so that your seasonings stick. And so now we're going to go ahead and season it with this blend that I have. And so like I said in the beginning, use any seasonings of your preferred choice, but you are going to need ranch seasoning for sure for this recipe. But I have some Montreal chicken seasoning in here, some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and a little bit of buttery garlic and herb seasoning. So you're going to generously season both sides. And then we're going to preheat our skillet with some olive oil so we can get this cooking. So while our pasta is going, we're going to go ahead and add some olive oil to our skillet so we can cook our chicken. And you're going to cook this on medium. You don't want it to cook too fast because then it'll burn on the outside and it'll be uncooked on the inside. But if we put it on medium, it'll be just right. Now that our skillet is heated, let's go ahead and put our chicken on. Now you may notice I'm using chicken thighs, whereas a lot of recipes like this will use chicken breasts. I personally am just a fan of chicken thighs. They have more flavor. They're more tender, in my opinion. They're also a little bit easier to cook. Chicken breasts can dry out very quickly and easily. So I just like chicken thighs, but you can use whatever you'd like. Breasts are fine, but if you want a little bit of extra flavor and tenderness, go for the thighs. Our pasta is now also done, but before we drain the noodles, I'm going to go ahead and take about a ladle or two of pasta water. We're going to save that off to the side because that's going to help us a little later when we're making our sauce. But for now, I got that to the side, and now we're going to go ahead and drain the noodles. Our chicken is going. Our pasta noodles are now cooked. So we're going to take our pot, and we're going to melt about a half a stick of butter in the pot. And then once that gets all melted down, we're going to add in about, this is about 3 cloves of garlic, 3 small cloves. So once the butter is melted, we'll add this in and we'll kind of cook that garlic down a little bit. Make sure you always keep stirring when you add garlic because garlic burns very easily. And you always need to have some type of oil or fat to cook it in. Okay, let's go ahead and add in our garlic. That down nicely. Now, I love garlic, so you can always add more or less depending on what your taste preferences are, but you can never go wrong with a good helping of garlic. Okay. Our garlic is now cooked for about 2 to 3 minutes or so. Now I'm going to add in about a cup of heavy cream. We're going to reduce the heat down because we're going to add our cheese in next. And if your heat is too high, your cheese is going to start separating and it's going to get kind of gross. So I have some mozzarella cheese. And with this, I use some freshly shredded cheese because it doesn't have that film on it like bag cheese does. But you can use whatever you like because, like I said, this is supposed to be a quick weeknight recipe. So the bag works just fine. So I'm going to give this a good stir until that cheese starts to melt down. And you can add however much cheese you'd like. Sometimes people like it really cheesy, some don't. That's the great thing about cooking is that you can make it to how your preferences are. That's why another reason you'll probably never see me give out exact measurements on anything because first, that's really not how I cook. And then second, everybody's preferences are different. So you get to do things how you like it, but also as you learn, you'll kind of know intuitively how much of things to add. Cooking's about trial and error. All right, I'm gonna let this melt down for a little bit. Our cheese has started to melt down, so now we need to go ahead and season it up. So these are some of the same seasonings that I used for the chicken, but I added a little bit more ranch seasoning. So we're gonna toss that in there. And then as we mix it, we'll go ahead and give it a taste to see if this is how we like it. It's getting nice and thick. Give it a taste. Perfect. Doesn't need anything else. Now, remember that pasta water I told you about? We're going to add some of that back in because we need to thin this out a bit. But also the starch from the pasta that was cooked in it is going to help it not to thin too much. Yeah, this is perfect. And since it was seasoned pretty heavily, that pasta water is not going to dilute the flavor. Fantastic. All right, let's set this to the side. Our chicken is done, and now I'm going to chop it up now that it's rested for about 10 minutes or so. When you let your meat rest, you allow those juices to stay within the meat because if you cut it too soon, all of it seeps out and you're going to lose flavor and some tenderness. So make sure to let your meat rest. So we're going to chop it up and start assembling our pasta. We have our sauce now, and let's go ahead and add in the rest of our rigatoni. Stir it a bit. Now we're going to bake this, so don't be too concerned about it seeming a little bit watery. Now we're going to add in our chicken. Now when it comes to the consistency of that sauce, I want you to think a little bit more Alfredo and less macaroni and cheese, so it doesn't need to be crazy thick. Because once we put it in the oven, it's going to thicken up just a little bit, but also, like I said, I kind of want it to be a little less, I don't know, overly thick and cheesy, if that makes sense. I don't know. Lastly, we need to get the bacon, which I have that across the kitchen. So I'm going to toss that in, and I'm going to save a little bit to sprinkle over the top once we put this into our baking pan. Now, if you wanted to, you could add some vegetables into this as well. I think some broccoli would taste really good, but you don't have to. All right, let's get our baking dish. I think this is about a 9 by 9 dish, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not the greatest with some measurements and things. So let's spread that around. We're also going to add some cheese to the top. Like so. Like I said, add as much or little that you like. And we're going to pop this into the oven for about maybe 20 minutes or so until that cheese starts to melt on top. And I'm going to go ahead and cook it on 350. So I will see you in about 20 minutes. Our pasta is now done. So let's go ahead and top it with the rest of that bacon. And then some dried parsley on top. Now let's scoop some out and see what we're working with. Oh, still has a nice little cheese pull on it. This looks great. Beautiful. Now let's taste it. All right, here we go. Make sure we get a piece of chicken. You definitely have to make this. This is good. I definitely enjoyed this one today. And like I mentioned throughout the video, you're welcome to make it however that you like it. If you're somebody that wants a little bit more of a gooey, cheesier pasta, you can leave out the pasta water. But if you want a little bit more saucy, go ahead and add it in. Now, let me know in the comments what you think. Would you try it? Have you tried it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next time in class. All right, class dismissed.